What's up, everybody? This is your boy Tech G back with another video to help you successfully pass the CompTIA A+ 220 1101 certification exam. So let's get into it. In this video, you're going to learn about various internet connection types such as satellite, fiber, cable, DSL, cellular, and wireless internet service providers. All right, so let's talk about the first type of internet connection type, which is satellite. So satellite internet services, they can be used by individuals and businesses that are out of reach of wired internet services. Satellite internet services are often bundled with satellite TV service. A satellite internet service uses an oval satellite antenna, which is very similar in appearance to that of a satellite TV antenna. And it uses that to connect with geosynchronous communication satellites orbiting over the equator. And these satellites relay internet from ground stations to individual users and viewers via a satellite modem. And satellite modems are proprietary to each satellite service and are usually purchased by the user. Satellite internet services offer pricing based on one or two variables, and that is data bandwidth allowed per month and the downstream or download speed. And data bandwidth per month, it ranges from 10 to as high as 100 gigabytes. And current download speeds, they may vary from 12 to 50 megabits per second. And satellite internet vendors, they do have data caps. And due to the extra time involved in relaying signals from a ground base to a satellite and back to the individual user, satellite internet services are a poor choice for gaming or voice over IP services. Here are some of the advantages of using satellite. They have no geographical barriers. They can reach places where cable or fiber are not available, and they are faster than dial-up connections. And some of the disadvantages are satellite can be expensive to install. The equipment costs can be expensive, such as the modem and the dish. It can be unreliable due to weather conditions that can affect the connection. They have data caps. Data caps are common with satellite providers, and they offer a slow ping rate, which makes them unsuitable for gaming, video chat, and voice over IP. Next connection type we have is called fiber. So fiber optics, this is a technology that uses glass or plastic threads, also known as fibers, to transmit data. A fiber optic cable consists of a bundle of glass threads, each of which is capable of transmitting messages modulated onto light waves. In fiber optics, this is the fastest type of internet service, which is primarily used as a backbone between networks. And fiber optic cable comes in two major types. The first one is called single mode, and this has a thin core between 8 and 10 microns thick that is designed to carry a single light ray long distances of up to 60 kilometers or further. In single mode cable, it uses a laser diode as its light source, and the typical uses include cable television and telephone companies. And then you have multi-mode, and this has a thicker core of 62.5 microns, and this carries multiple light rays for short distances up to 10 kilometers. And multi-mode cable, it uses an LED light source, and the typical uses include local and metropolitan area networks. And fiber optic cabling, this is normally purchased pre-built, but if you need a custom length, it should be built and installed by experienced cable installers because of the expense and risk of damage. And some network adapters built for servers are designed to use fiber optic cable. Otherwise, media converters are used to interconnect fiber optic and conventional cable on networks. And fiber optic devices and cables, they use one of several connector types. The first type is called an SC connector, and this uses a square connector. Next is an LC connector that also uses a square connector. And then you have an ST connector, and that uses a round connector. And a few advantages that fiber presents are the following. Fiber optic cables, they have a much greater bandwidth than metal cables. This means that they can carry more data. Fiber optic cables are less susceptible than metal cables to EMI or electromagnetic interference. Fiber optic cables are much thinner and lighter than metal wires, and data can be transmitted digitally, which is the natural form of computer data, rather than an analog form. Fiber is also a very secure medium for data transmission, and being that the fiber connection is ran straight to your home, your neighborhood internet usage from all of your neighbors logging onto the internet will not affect your connection speed. And a few disadvantages of fiber optic cabling are it can be difficult to install because fiber is made of fragile glass or plastic fibers, and it has a way higher cost than cable or DSL wiring. All right, let's talk about the next internet connection type, and that is called cable. So prior to the advent of fiber optics, the fastest internet service available to home and business customers was cable internet. And cable internet, this is a form of broadband internet access which uses the same RG6 coaxial cable as a cable television, but adds a device called a cable modem to convert the signal for use by computers in home and business networks. And this right here is a standard RG6 coaxial cable that will plug into your cable modem so that you can have cable internet and or cable television. And the typical cable internet speeds, they range from 10 megabytes per second upwards to 100 megabytes per second. But some operators are now offering 500 megabytes and 1000 megabytes or 1 gigabit per second speeds by using a fiber optic service. And cable internet pricing varies with the downstream and upstream speeds chosen. Symmetrical service, which is basically you have the same download and upload or downstream and upstream speed. This is typically offered to business customers. Most cable ISPs, they do not have data caps, and to determine the actual upstream downstream speed your connection achieves with an ISP, you will want to use a speed testing website. In many ISPs, they do provide speed testing web page links on their customer service pages. And as a side note, upstream simply refers to data, page requests, emails, and so on being sent from your computer or network to the internet, and downstream or downloads, that simply refers to any information being received from the internet. So sending data upstream is called uploading. And receiving data is called downloading. And some of the advantages of cable internet is that it provides an always on connection, and it is faster than dial-up or DSL connections. And disadvantages of cable are the speeds are sometimes slower than fiber, or depending upon how many people are in an area that are connected at once, because the neighborhood shares an ISP backbone, that can potentially affect your speeds as well. So think, for example, when you come home about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you hop on the internet and you're paying for cable internet and your internet is just moving extremely slow. That's because everybody else in your neighborhood that has cable internet, you all share the same backbone that runs that connection into your neighborhood. So everybody's eating up the bandwidth and your internet's just dragging on and on. And another disadvantage is that cable internet is not available in all places. Next, let's talk about DSL internet, or digital subscriber line. So DSL, this is a communication medium used to transfer digital signals over standard telephone lines. Along with cable internet, DSL is one of the most popular ways ISPs provide broadband internet access. DSL is used by telephone companies to provide internet service at speeds much faster than that allowed by analog or dial-up internet service, while allowing traditional analog telephones and devices such as fax machines to share the same connection. And to make this possible, devices called DSL microfilters are attached between telephones and telephony devices such as answering machines, voicemails, and fax machines to prevent interference with the DSL signal. So in this picture, this right here will be called a microfilter. It will be connected to your standard phone jack in your wall. And basically this allows for the signal to split so that you can have an internet connection and you can talk on the phone at the same time, assuming you're still using a landline connection. Now, because traditional DSL runs over telephone lines that were originally developed for voice services only, it is far slower than a cable internet connection. And typically, traditional DSL speeds, they can range from 768 kilobits per second for your downstream to 384 kilobits per second for your upstream, all the way to 6 megabits per second down and 768 kilobits per second up. So basically, the speeds, they decrease as the distance between the DSL service location and the central switch or the central office that's providing the DSL connection increases. And also, most DSL providers, they do not have data caps. And some of the advantages of DSL include the following. They are faster than a traditional dial-up connection, and users can connect to the internet and talk on the phone simultaneously, unlike a dial-up connection. And the disadvantages are DSL provides inconsistent internet connection speeds. It's available in limited distances from the service provider. The speeds can drop the greater the distance from the connection to the internet, which is also known as the central office or central switch. And DSL is normally slower than cable, and it is definitely slower than a fiber connection. Next, let's talk about a cellular internet connection. So cellular internet service, this is typically built into a smartphone. And there are two ways for other devices such as tablets and PCs to use a cellular internet connection. They can do so by adding a cellular radio and data plan or by connecting to a mobile hotspot. And to add cellular service to an Android tablet or iPad, the cellular radio must be factory installed and a suitable data plan purchased from a mobile carrier. To enable devices that have only Wi-Fi connections to use a cellular internet connection, they need to connect to a mobile spot, and mobile hotspot devices can be purchased from mobile service providers. And for occasional use, many smartphones can also be turned into a mobile hotspot. And finally, cellular internet service isn't recommended as your only connection because it is oftentimes slower than most other services. Here's a little handy dandy chart you can use to learn about the differences between the various types of internet services that are out there, their maximum speeds, and some other handy dandy information to help you pass this exam. And finally, let's talk about wireless internet service providers, or a WISP. So wireless internet service providers, they deliver reliable, affordable broadband to customers in fixed locations such as residents, businesses, and schools. And fixed wireless, this is the fastest growing sector of the broadband industry, characterized by cost-effective deployment, rapid technology innovation, and continuously evolving transmission models, including fiber. And networks can be built and upgraded virtually overnight at a fraction of the cost of wired only or satellite technologies. And WISP, they are powerful allies in closing the digital divide, where they serve the hardest to reach unserved areas of rural America, as well as bringing affordable alternatives to undeserved urban customers. All right, so that was my quick little class on internet connections, where we talked about various connections such as satellite, fiber, cable, DSL, cellular, and wireless internet service providers.